The glass hit the table harder than it should have. "Excuse me, are you even listening?" Ethan stopped mid-step. Every head didn't turn, but enough did. He walked over, steady, calm. "Yes, ma'am." The woman didn't look up at first, just stirred her drink. Slow, loud. "I've been waiting 10 minutes. For water." Ethan glanced at the table. Half-full glass. Condensation still fresh. "I'll bring you another right away." Her eyes snapped up. Cold. Sharp. "No. I want someone who knows what they're doing." A pause. Small, but heavy. Ethan felt it land. "I can help you," he said. Her husband leaned back, watching him like a show. "You sure?" he muttered. Ethan held his tone. "Yes, sir." The woman laughed. Short. Dry. "People like you always say that." Silence. Not full silence. Forks still moved. Glasses clinked. But something changed. A shift in the air. Ethan's fingers tightened around the tray. Just slightly. "I'll fix this," he said. He turned. But her voice followed him. Louder now. "Or maybe you just shouldn't be working here at all." That landed. Harder. Ethan stopped walking. Just for a second. Not enough for most to notice. But enough. Enough to decide something. Because tonight, he wasn't just a waiter. And if they kept pushing, this entire restaurant was about to change. The woman didn't look at him again. Not really. Just past him. Through him. Like he was part of the furniture. Ethan placed the water down gently. "Anything else I can get for you?" She sighed. Long. Loud. "I already told you what I need." Her husband smirked, leaning back in his chair. "You're not very good at this, are you?" Ethan kept his voice even. "What would you like me to improve?" That made the woman pause. Just for a second. Then she smiled. Not kind. Sharp. "Oh, so now you're asking questions? I want to make sure your experience is better." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. But not too low. "Start by listening." A beat. Ethan nodded. "I am." Her eyes narrowed. Clearly not. Silence. The kind that stretches. The kind that invites attention. At the next table, a couple slowed their conversation. Not stopping, but listening. Ethan felt it. The shift. Still, he didn't move. "Would you like to order?" he asked. The husband laughed softly. Finally. Progress. They ordered slowly. Deliberately. Changing items mid-sentence. Correcting him. Twice. "No, I said no onions." "I didn't write onions." "Then why did you pause?" Ethan didn't answer that. He just nodded. Wrote. Adjusted. "Anything else?" The woman tilted her head. Studying him now. Really studying him. "What's your name?" "Ethan." She smiled again. That same tight smile. "Ethan." She repeated it like she was testing it. "Interesting." A pause. Then, "Do you always work this section?" "Tonight, yes." She leaned back. "Let's hope that changes." The words were light. But not really. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. Not anger. Not yet. Just awareness. "I'll put your order in," he said. He turned. Walked toward the kitchen. But he could still feel their eyes. On his back. Like pressure. Like expectation. The kitchen was louder. Safer. In a strange way. Plates clattered. Voices overlapped. "Table 12, a cook called." Ethan nodded. "Yeah." The cook shook his head. "They've been complaining all night." Ethan grabbed the ticket. "I noticed." A younger server stepped closer. "Hey, you good?" Ethan glanced at him. "I'm fine." The server lowered his voice. "They do this." Ethan didn't respond. "They pick someone," the server continued. "Then they just don't stop." Ethan folded the ticket once. Neatly. "Why doesn't anyone say anything?" The server hesitated. Then shrugged. "Because it's easier not to." That sat there. Heavy. Real. Ethan looked back toward the dining room. Through the small window. He could see them. Still talking. Still watching. "I'll handle it," Ethan said. The server frowned. "You don't have to." Ethan's voice stayed calm. "I know." A beat. Then he stepped back out. The food came quickly. Ethan carried the plates with steady hands. Set them down carefully. "Your steak. Medium rare." The husband cut into it immediately. Didn't even wait. He chewed. Slow. Then shook his head. "This isn't right." Ethan blinked once. "What seems to be the issue?" "It's overcooked." Ethan looked at the plate. Pink center. Exactly as ordered. "I can have it remade." The woman leaned in again. Or maybe you can just admit you made a mistake. I didn't cook the steak, ma'am. That slipped out. Soft. But clear. Her expression changed. There it was. The shift. You're arguing with me now? No. Because it sounds like you are. Ethan felt eyes again. More now. Watching. Waiting. I'll replace it, he said. The husband pushed the plate slightly. Not hard. But enough. Do that. Ethan reached for it. Careful. Controlled. But as he lifted the plate, the woman spoke again. Louder this time. Unbelievable. Ethan paused. Just slightly. What is? She sat back. Arms crossed. This place used to have standards. There it was. Clearer now. No hiding. No soft edges. Ethan felt something settle inside him. Not anger. Something sharper. Focus. I'll make sure your meal is corrected. He turned again. But this time, the manager was already walking toward him. Fast. Face tight. Ethan, he said quietly. Step aside for a second. Ethan stopped. The restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Just a little. The manager glanced at the table. Then back at Ethan. We need to talk. Ethan nodded once. Calm. But something told him. This wasn't about the steak anymore. The manager didn't stop walking. Ethan followed. Past the tables. Past the noise. Into the narrow hallway near the kitchen. The sound of the dining room softened behind them. Not gone. Just distant. The manager turned. Lowered his voice. What's going on out there? Ethan met his eyes. They're unhappy. That's not what I asked. A pause. Ethan chose his words carefully. They're targeting me. The manager exhaled slowly. Tired. Frustrated. Look, I need you to step off that table. Ethan didn't respond right away. They've already complained twice, the manager added. I can't escalate this. I'm not escalating, Ethan said. It doesn't matter how it looks to you. That landed. Quiet. Sharp. The manager stepped closer. Switch with Daniel. Let him take over. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. Why? Because it'll calm them down. A beat. Then. And that's what we need right now. Ethan held his gaze. You think it's about service? The manager hesitated. Just for a second. Then looked away. I think it's about perception. Silence. Heavy. Real. Ethan nodded once. Okay. Daniel was already waiting. He glanced between them. What's up? You're taking table 12, the manager said. Daniel blinked. Oh. A small pause. Then quieter. Got it. Ethan handed him the ticket. Steak needs replacing. Daniel took it. His voice dropped. You sure? Ethan nodded. Yeah. Daniel hesitated. Then leaned closer. They're rough. I know. You don't have to. It's fine, Ethan said. But it wasn't. Not really. Ethan moved back into the dining room. But not as a server now. Not directly. He stayed near the edge. Observing. Listening. The shift was immediate. Daniel approached the table. Same uniform. Same tone. Same steps. Good evening. I'll be taking over. The woman smiled. Warm. Sudden. Oh, thank you. Ethan noticed that. The speed of it. The ease. Daniel nodded politely. Let me fix that steak for you. That would be great, she said. No tension. No edge. The husband leaned forward. Appreciate it. Ethan stood still. Just watching. Same table. Same problem. Different treatment. There it was. Clear. Undeniable. In the kitchen, voices were quieter now. But sharper. You got switched, one cook asked. Ethan nodded. Yeah. The younger server stepped closer again. Told you. Ethan leaned against the counter. They're fine with him. The server shrugged. Yeah. Why? The question hung there. No one answered at first. Then. Because it's easier for them. Ethan looked up. What does that mean? The cook wiped his hands. It means you're not the problem. A beat. But you are to them. That sat heavy. Ethan exhaled slowly. I need to write this down. The server frowned. Write it down. Ethan pulled a small notepad from his pocket. Simple. Plain. He clicked his pen. Started writing. Time. Table. Behavior. Language. Details. The server watched him. What are you doing? Ethan didn't look up. Paying attention. Back in the dining room. The steak returned. Daniel placed it carefully. Fresh from the kitchen. The husband cut into it again. Same doneness. Same center. He nodded. Perfect. Ethan felt something shift again. Not surprise. Confirmation. The woman took a sip of water. See? That wasn't so hard. Daniel smiled politely. Anything else I can get for you? She shook her head. No, this is great. Great. The word echoed. Ethan stared for a second longer than he meant to. Then looked down at his notes. Added one more line. Tone shift after server change. Minutes passed. The room settled again. But not completely. Something lingered. Ethan felt it. Like a thread still pulling. He stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough to hear. The woman leaned toward her husband. Lower now. But not low enough. I told you. He nodded. They always struggle. Ethan froze. Just for a second. Pen still in hand. They're just not trained the same, she added. The husband chuckled softly. Yeah. Ethan wrote again. Slow. Careful. Every word mattered. Then, the woman looked up. Straight at him. Caught him watching. Her expression changed instantly. Gone was the softness. Back to sharp. Cold. You're still here. Ethan didn't move. I'm working. Her eyes narrowed. Doesn't look like it. Daniel glanced over. Confused. The manager noticed too. From across the room. Walking closer now. The woman sat up straighter. Voice rising. I thought you were taken off this table. I was, Ethan said. Then why are you hovering? I'm not. Yes, you are. Now people were turning again. More this time. The tension snapped back. Faster. Stronger. The husband leaned forward. This is uncomfortable. Ethan felt it closing in. The pressure. The eyes. The expectation. The manager stepped in. Is everything all right? The woman pointed. No. Clear. Direct. Firm. He's still bothering us. Ethan spoke calmly. I'm not interacting with the table. You're watching us. Her voice sharpened. Accusing now. That's inappropriate. The manager looked at Ethan. Then at her. Then back. A decision forming. I'll handle this, he said. But the woman wasn't done. No, she snapped. Her voice cut through the room. This needs to be handled properly. A beat. Then. I want him gone. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. The manager stiffened. We can resolve this. No, she said again. Louder. Clearer. I don't feel comfortable with him here. That word again. Comfortable. Weaponized. Ethan stood still. Didn't move. Didn't react. But inside, something locked into place. The manager hesitated. Caught between sides. Between truth. And pressure. Then the woman leaned forward. Eyes fixed on him. And said, if you won't deal with this. A pause. Sharp. Deliberate. I will. The room didn't go silent. But it got close enough. Forks slowed. Chairs stopped shifting. Eyes turned. Open now, not hiding. The manager forced a tight smile. Ma'am, we're doing everything we can. No, you're not. Her voice cut straight through him. Sharp. Controlled. Louder than before. You're letting him stand there and stare at us like we did something wrong. Ethan stayed still. Hands relaxed at his sides. I'm not. Stop talking. She didn't even look at him. Just dismissed him with a flick of her fingers. Like he wasn't worth the effort. The husband leaned forward. This is what we're dealing with, he said to the manager. Attitude. Ethan felt the word land. Heavy. Unfair. But expected. I haven't shown any attitude, Ethan said calmly. Now she turned. Fast. Eyes locked on him. Oh, so now you're arguing again? I'm clarifying. No, she snapped. You're being defensive. A pause. Then softer. And aggressive. That word shifted everything. The air tightened. A couple at the next table exchanged looks. One of them reached slowly for their phone. Ethan noticed. Didn't react. The manager raised his hands slightly. Let's keep this calm. I am calm, she said. Her voice said otherwise. Her posture said otherwise. Her eyes. Sharp, focused, pushing. You're the one letting this escalate. The manager swallowed. We've already reassigned your server. And he's still here, she cut in. Pointing again. Clear. Direct. Accusing. Ethan felt every eye on him now. No escape from it. The husband stood halfway from his chair. Not fully. Just enough to change the dynamic. We came here for a quiet dinner, he said. This isn't that. Ethan met his gaze. I haven't interrupted your meal. You're interrupting it right now. That wasn't true. But truth wasn't leading anymore. The narrative was. And it was moving fast. The manager turned to Ethan. Lower voice. Step outside for a minute. Ethan didn't move. I'm not doing anything wrong. I know, the manager said quickly. Too quickly. But let's just de-escalate. There it was again. That word. Used to smooth things over. Used to avoid the real issue. Ethan shook his head slightly. I'm not the one escalating. The woman laughed. Short. Sharp. Incredible. She looked around the room now, pulling others into it. Is everyone seeing this? No one answered. But no one looked away either. The silence spoke. Loud. A voice came from the side. Quiet at first. Then stronger. He hasn't done anything. Everyone turned. The bystander. Mid-30s. Casual clothes. Phone in hand. Eyes steady. The woman blinked. Surprised. Then annoyed. Excuse me? The bystander didn't back down. I've been sitting here the whole time, they said. He's been calm. The husband scoffed. You don't know what's been happening. I've seen enough. That shifted it again. Now it wasn't just one voice. It was two. The woman's smile disappeared completely. This is none of your business. It became my business when you raised your voice, the bystander replied. A murmur moved through the room. Small, but growing. The manager looked overwhelmed now. Caught. Losing control of the room. The woman stood up fully this time. Chair scraping loudly. Unbelievable. She pointed at Ethan again. This is exactly the problem. Ethan didn't speak. Didn't move. But inside, he felt the pressure building. Not panic. Not fear. Something tighter. More focused. This is harassment, she said. Clear. Public. Intentional. The word landed harder than anything before. The husband nodded. Yes. It is. The manager stepped forward quickly. Let's not use that word. Why not? She snapped. If that's what it is. It's not, Ethan said. Calm. Firm. That only made it worse. There it is again, she said. Defensive. Confrontational. She turned to the manager. You need to handle this. I am trying. No, she cut in. You're avoiding it. A pause. Then. If you won't fix this. She pulled her phone from her purse. Slow. Deliberate. I will. The manager's eyes widened slightly. Let's not do anything drastic. It's already drastic, she said. Her fingers moved across the screen. Fast. Precise. The husband leaned closer. You're doing the right thing. Ethan watched. Every second of it. Felt the shift again. Bigger this time. He knew what was coming. Still. He didn't move. The bystander stepped forward slightly. You don't need to do that. The woman ignored them. Held the phone to her ear. Waited. 1 ring. 2. Then. Yes, she said. Voice changing instantly. Controlled. Measured. I'd like to report a situation. The word echoed. Situation. Clean. Careful. Dangerous. The manager ran a hand through his hair. Ma'am, please. She turned away from him. Still on the call. There's a man here making us feel unsafe. Ethan felt it hit. Hard. Not loud. But deep. The room reacted. Subtle. But real. Unsafe. That word carried weight. Authority. Consequence. The husband added quietly. He won't leave us alone. Ethan's chest tightened. Just slightly. But his face stayed still. Calm. Controlled. The bystanders shook their head. That's not true. Please hurry, the woman said into the phone. Then paused. Listening. Nodding. Yes. A final beat. Then she lowered the phone. Looked straight at Ethan. Eyes cold. Certain. They're on their way. Silence. Heavy. Final. The manager exhaled slowly. The room shifted again. From tension. To something else. Something bigger. Something official. Ethan stood there. Still. Quiet. But inside. Everything sharpened. Because this was no longer just about a table. Or a complaint. Or even respect. This had just become something else entirely. The siren wasn't loud. Just a quick burst. Enough. Enough to change the room. Conversations dropped. Chairs shifted. Eyes moved toward the entrance. Ethan felt it before he saw it. That shift. That weight. The door opened. 2 officers stepped inside. Dark uniforms. Heavy presence. The room seemed smaller instantly. The woman straightened. Relief flashed across her face. "There," she said quietly. The manager stepped forward quickly. "Officers, thank you for coming." The first officer didn't look at him. Not yet. His eyes locked onto Ethan. Direct. Immediate. Step forward. No greeting. No context. Just command. Ethan didn't move right away. "Sir," the manager started. "There's been a misunderstanding." I said step forward. The tone sharpened. Flat. Unquestioning. Ethan stepped forward slowly. Hands visible. Calm. Always calm. The officer walked closer. Close enough now to take control of the space. "What's your name?" "Ethan." "Ethan what?" "Ethan Cole." The officer nodded slightly, like he was filing it away. "ID." Ethan reached slowly into his pocket. Pulled out his wallet. Careful. Measured. Every movement deliberate. The officer watched his hands closely. Too closely. Ethan handed over the ID. The officer barely glanced at it. Then looked back up. "You work here?" "Yes." "What's your position?" "I've been serving tonight." The officer's eyes narrowed slightly. "Been serving." He repeated it like he didn't fully accept it. Behind him, the woman stepped closer. "He's the one," she said. The officer didn't turn. "Ma'am, I'll handle this." Her voice softened instantly. "Of course." "Thank you." Ethan noticed that. The shift. Again. Same pattern. Different authority. "What happened here?" the officer asked. Still looking at Ethan. Not the manager. Not the couple. Ethan spoke calmly. "They were unhappy with service." He wouldn't leave us alone," the woman interrupted. The officer raised a hand. But not at her. At Ethan. "Let her speak." Ethan stopped. The woman stepped forward slightly. He kept hovering. Watching us. Making us uncomfortable. "That's not accurate," Ethan said. The officer turned his head slowly. Eyes tightening. "I didn't ask you." The words landed hard. Sharp. Clear. The room felt it. The bystander stepped forward again. "That's not what happened." Now the officer turned. Finally. "Who are you?" "Just someone who saw everything." The officer's posture changed slightly. More rigid. More guarded. Then stepped back. "I'm just saying." "Step. Back." The tone left no room. The bystander hesitated. Then stepped back. But didn't leave. Didn't look away. The officer turned back to Ethan. "You've been causing a disturbance." "I haven't raised my voice." "That's not the only way to cause a disturbance." Ethan felt the trap in that. Loose definitions. Flexible accusations. Easy to shape. "I followed instructions," Ethan said. The manager nodded quickly. He did. The officer held up a hand again. Silencing him this time. "I'll ask you if I need input." The manager stepped back. Quiet. Just like that. Authority had shifted. Completely. The second officer moved slightly to the side. Watching the room. Watching Ethan. Hand resting near his belt. Not aggressive. But not neutral either. Ready. Always ready. The first officer took a small step closer. Lowering his voice. But not enough to hide it. "You need to understand something." Ethan held his gaze. "This situation can go two ways." A pause. Heavy. "You cooperate." Another pause. "Or you don't." Ethan didn't respond immediately. Chose his words. Carefully. "I am cooperating." The officer tilted his head slightly. "Then act like it." A beat. "Then. Why were you watching them?" "I wasn't watching them specifically." "You were looking at their table." "I was observing the floor." "That's not what they said." Ethan exhaled slowly. "They changed their behavior when another server took over." The officer's eyes hardened. "So now you're analyzing customers?" "I'm explaining what happened." "No," the officer said. "You're deflecting." That word again. Another label. Another shift. Ethan felt it stacking. Layer by layer. The woman stepped forward again. "He moved closer to us after he was told not to." "That's not true," the bystander said from behind. The officer didn't even turn this time. Last warning. The bystander went quiet. But stayed. Still recording. The officer looked back at Ethan. "You've been asked to step away." "You didn't." "I did step away." "Then why are we here?" "Because of them." "Because of what they said." "Because of how this works." Ethan didn't say that. Instead, "I'm here because they called you." The officer's jaw tightened slightly. You're not in a position to explain why we're here. That landed. Deep. Clear. Power drawn. Line set. The manager stepped in again. Careful this time. Measured. Officer, maybe we can resolve this without. Sir. The officer's voice cut through him. Step back. The manager froze. Then slowly stepped back again. Silence. Complete now. No murmurs. No whispers. Just watching. Waiting. The officer looked at Ethan again. Longer this time. Studying him. Judging. Deciding. Turn around. The words came out flat. Final. Ethan blinked once. Why? The officer's expression didn't change. Turn around. The second officer shifted slightly. Closer now. Hand still near his belt. The room held its breath. Ethan felt it. Every eye. Every second. This isn't necessary, Ethan said calmly. The officer stepped forward, closing the space. It is if you don't comply. A beat. Then, his hand moved. Not fast, but clear. Toward his cuffs. The metal caught the light. Just for a second. But it was enough. Enough to change everything. The bystander spoke again. Louder this time. You can't do that. He didn't do anything. The officer ignored it. Eyes locked on Ethan. Waiting. Expecting. Demanding. Last chance, he said. Ethan stood there. Still. Calm on the outside. But inside. Something shifted. Something final. Because this wasn't just pressure anymore. This was escalation. Real. Official. Dangerous. Ethan looked at the officer. Then at the room. Then back. And for the first time, his voice changed. Just slightly. Not louder. Not aggressive. But sharper. More certain. More controlled. Before you do that. A pause. Small. But heavy. You might want to understand who you're dealing with. The officer didn't move his hand. Not yet. But he didn't pull it back either. The metal cuffs stayed visible. Close. Ready. His eyes stayed locked on Ethan. Cold. Measuring. You're in no position to make that kind of statement. Ethan didn't look away. I'm asking you to pause. A beat. Tight. Controlled. The officer took a step closer. Now they were almost face to face. You don't give instructions here. I'm not giving instructions, Ethan said. I'm giving you a chance to get context. The officer's jaw shifted. Small, but noticeable. I already have context. He gestured slightly toward the couple. They called. We responded. That's not context, Ethan said quietly. That's one side. The officer's eyes hardened. That's enough. The second officer moved closer now. Flanking. Subtle, but intentional. The space tightened around Ethan. Not physically trapped, but close enough. Behind them, the woman crossed her arms. Satisfied. He's still arguing, she said. He won't stop. The husband nodded. This is exactly what we meant. Ethan heard it. Every word. Every layer. Built. Reinforced. The narrative was solid now. Clean. Simple. And wrong. The bystander stepped forward again. Voice steady. You're not listening to him. The first officer didn't turn. But his voice cut back sharply. You've already been told to step back. I'm a witness. You're interfering. I'm telling the truth. That hung there. For a second. Longer than expected. The officer turned this time. Slow. Measured. Eyes locked. Do you want to be part of this? A pause. Then. Or do you want to sit down? The threat wasn't loud. But it was there. Clear. The bystander hesitated. Just a second. Then stepped back again. Not defeated. But contained. Ethan felt something settle deeper inside him. Not fear. Not panic. Recognition. He'd seen this before. Different places. Different faces. Same pattern. Control the story. Control the outcome. He exhaled slowly. I haven't broken any rules. The officer turned back. You've caused a disturbance. That's not the same thing. It is tonight. That landed. Hard. Because it wasn't about rules anymore. It was about control. The manager stepped forward again. Careful. Voice lower. He's one of our best. Sir. The officer didn't even let him finish. Step back. Again. Same command. Same result. The manager stepped back. Again. Ethan noticed that. Authority didn't just silence him. It erased him. The woman shook her head. This is ridiculous. Her voice carried now. Confident again. He shouldn't be allowed to act like this. Ethan looked at her. Finally. Directly. For standing here? She smiled. Tight. No. A pause. For how you're standing here. That twisted it. Subtle. But sharp. The officer nodded slightly. As if that made sense. As if that was enough. Ethan felt the weight of it. Not just the moment, but everything behind it. The assumptions. The shortcuts. The silence that allowed it. He looked at the officer again. Calm. Still calm. You're making a decision without facts. The officer didn't hesitate. I'm making a decision based on behavior. Whose behavior? A beat. The officer didn't answer that. Instead, turn around. Again. Stronger this time. Final. The second officer shifted even closer. The room felt smaller. Tighter. The pressure was real now. Visible. The bystander spoke again. Louder now. You can't just arrest him without. Enough. The officer's voice cut through everything. Sharp. Commanding. Final. The room froze. Even the air felt still. Ethan closed his eyes for a brief second. Not long. Just enough. Enough to center himself. Enough to decide. When he opened them, they were different. Still calm. But clearer. Focused. Resolved. You're right, Ethan said. The officer paused. Slightly thrown. About what? This situation can go two ways. A beat. The officer didn't respond. Didn't expect that. Ethan continued. Cooperation or escalation. The officer's eyes narrowed. Then choose wisely. Ethan nodded once. I already have. A pause. Then, his voice dropped slightly. Quieter. But stronger. More precise. Do you want to know who I am? The room shifted. Again. Subtle. But real. The officer tilted his head. Suspicion replacing certainty. You already told me. No, Ethan said. I told you my name. A beat. Then. I didn't tell you why I'm here. The officer's hand hovered near the cuffs. Still undecided. Still ready. But no longer automatic. What are you talking about? Ethan reached slowly into his pocket again. The second officer tensed instantly. Hands where I can see them. Ethan stopped. Held his hand still. I'm taking out a card. Slowly. I am. Every movement now. Measured. Controlled. Observed. Ethan pulled out a slim, dark card. Held it between two fingers. Visible. Clear. I suggest you look at this. The officer didn't take it immediately. Didn't trust it. Didn't trust him. But something had shifted. Small. But enough. What is it? Ethan held his gaze. Steady. Unmoving. The part of the story you haven't heard yet. Silence. Heavy. The room leaned in. Waiting. The officer hesitated. Just for a second. Then, reached out. And took the card. The card felt light in the officer's hand. Too light for the weight it carried. He glanced down. Fast. Like it wouldn't matter. Like it was just another excuse. But then, his eyes slowed. Focused. Reading. Once. Then again. More carefully. The room stayed quiet. Waiting. Watching. Ethan didn't move. Didn't speak. He let the silence do the work. The officer's expression didn't drop. Not fully. But something shifted. Small. Tight. Controlled. What is this? He asked. Ethan's voice stayed calm. You tell me. The officer looked again. This time longer. His thumb pressed slightly against the edge of the card. Grounding himself. Confirming what he was seeing. The second officer leaned closer. What's that? The first officer didn't answer immediately. Didn't look at him. Didn't look at anyone. Just the card. Then, he exhaled. Quiet. Almost unnoticeable. But Ethan caught it. Behind them, the woman scoffed. This is ridiculous. No one reacted. Not this time. The officer finally looked up. At Ethan. Really looked now. Not through him. Not past him. At him. You're a reviewer? Ethan nodded once. Senior field reviewer. A pause. For who? The officer asked. Ethan didn't rush it. Didn't dramatize it. He just said it. Clear. Precise. North American Dining Authority. The name landed. Even if not everyone knew it. The tone did. The weight did. The certainty behind it did. The manager stepped forward quickly. Eyes wide. You're serious? Ethan didn't look at him. I don't joke about work. The manager's face changed instantly. Color draining. Posture tightening. everything shifting. The woman laughed. Too loud. Too forced. Oh, please. She waved a hand. That doesn't mean anything. But her voice had changed. Just slightly. Less sharp. Less certain. Ethan turned to her. First time fully. It means everything tonight. Silence. Heavy. Direct. The husband shifted in his seat. Uncomfortable now. What exactly does that mean? He asked. Ethan answered without hesitation. It means I've been documenting this entire experience. The officer looked back at the card. Then at Ethan. What kind of documentation? Ethan reached into his pocket again. Slower this time. More deliberate. The second officer watched closely. But didn't interrupt. Ethan pulled out his phone. Held it up. Screen dark. But ready. Time logs. Behavioral notes. Observations. A pause. Then. An audio. That landed. Hard. The woman's expression cracked. Just slightly. You recorded us? Ethan didn't blink. I recorded my work environment. That's illegal. No, Ethan said calmly. It's not. The officer shifted. Weight moving slightly. Thinking now. Calculating. Not reacting. The manager stepped closer. Voice lower. Ethan, why didn't you say anything? Ethan looked at him. Finally. Because I needed to see how far it would go. That hit. Harder than anything else. Because now. Everyone understood. This wasn't a moment. It was a test. And they had all been part of it. The bystanders stepped forward again. More confident now. I told you, they said quietly. No one shut them down this time. No one told them to step back. The officer cleared his throat. Subtle, but noticeable. You should have identified yourself earlier. Ethan shook his head slightly. That would have changed behavior. A beat. I needed the truth. The officer didn't argue that. Didn't challenge it. Because now, he could see it. The pattern. The shift. The gap between how Ethan was treated and how Daniel was treated. The woman stood up again. Faster this time. Anger returning. But not as strong. You set us up. Ethan met her gaze. No. A pause. You revealed yourself. That silenced her. Completely. The husband looked between them. Then at the officer. This is getting blown out of proportion. The officer didn't respond. Didn't jump to agree. Didn't back them up. Not anymore. That shift was everything. Ethan took a small step forward. Not aggressive. Not confrontational. Just present. Clear. In 3 hours, he said. I observed consistent professionalism from staff under pressure. He glanced toward the kitchen. Then back. I also observed targeted behavior toward a specific employee. No names. But everyone knew. The manager swallowed hard. I didn't realize. You did, Ethan said quietly. The manager froze. I saw you watching. A beat. You just didn't step in. That landed deeper. Because it was true. And now, it was public. The officer shifted again. Looking between them all. Reassessing. Everything. His tone changed when he spoke again. Lower. Less sharp. All right. A pause. Then. Let's reset this. But Ethan wasn't finished. Not yet. Not just yet. The officer looked at him. Careful now. What else is there? Ethan held his gaze. Steady. Unshaken. The part where this doesn't stay in this room. Silence. The kind that spreads. Fast. Unavoidable. The woman's voice dropped. You wouldn't. Ethan didn't let her finish. I already have. A beat. Then. His voice turned colder. Sharper. Final. Everything tonight has been recorded, documented. He lifted his phone slightly. Just enough. And submitted. The room froze. Not quiet. Frozen. Because now, this wasn't just exposure. This was consequence. Real. Immediate. And unstoppable. The officer looked at the phone. Then at Ethan. Then back at the couple. For the first time since he walked in, he didn't know what to say. No one moved. Not at first. The weight of Ethan's last word, submitted, hung in the air. Heavy. Permanent. The officer shifted his stance. Subtle. But different. Less control. More caution. Submitted to who? He asked. Ethan didn't rush the answer. To my board, he said. And to a legal review team. A pause. Then. And if necessary to the public. That word landed. Public. The woman's face tightened. You're threatening us now? Ethan shook his head slightly. No. A beat. I'm documenting consequences. The second officer stepped in closer. Lower voice. Sir, is this going to become a media situation? The first officer didn't answer right away. Didn't look at him. He was still watching Ethan. Trying to recalculate. Trying to regain ground. But the ground had shifted. The bystander stepped forward again. This time no hesitation. I've been recording too. The room reacted. More movement now. More whispers. Phones coming out. Small lights glowing. The bystander held their phone up. Clear. Steady. You weren't listening earlier, they said to the officer. But now you should. The officer looked at the phone. Then at them. Different now. Less dismissive. What exactly did you record? Everything, the bystander said. A pause. From the first complaint. That changed things. Not slightly. Completely. The manager stepped forward. Panic starting to show. Let's all just calm down. No, Ethan said quietly. The manager stopped. Everyone did. Ethan's voice wasn't loud. But it carried. Clear. Focused. Controlled. This doesn't get calmed down. A beat. It gets addressed. The woman scoffed again. But it didn't land the same. This is insane, she said. You're turning this into something it's not. Ethan looked at her. Steady. It already is. The husband stood up. Faster now. Agitated. This is harassment, he said. From you. He pointed at Ethan. But his hand wasn't steady. You've been watching us. Recording us. Ethan didn't blink. I've been documenting a workplace environment. That's the same thing. No, Ethan said. It's not. The officer stepped in again, trying to take control back. All right. Everyone needs to lower their voices. No one was shouting. But the tension was louder than noise. We're not making this bigger than it needs to be. Ethan's eyes met his. It already is bigger. A pause. Because of how you handled it. That hit. Direct. No buffer. The officer's jaw tightened. You're saying I handled this wrong? I'm saying you chose a side before hearing both. Silence. The kind that exposes. The kind that forces reflection. The second officer shifted again. Uneasy now. He looked at his partner. Then at the room. Then back. We didn't have all the information, he said quietly. Ethan nodded once. Exactly. The bystander stepped closer again. Voice firm. You dismissed me. The first officer looked at them. Didn't interrupt this time. You told me to step back, the bystander continued. I was trying to explain what happened. A beat. You didn't want to hear it. The officer exhaled slowly. No response. Because there wasn't one. Not a good one. More voices started rising now. Not shouting. But speaking. Adding. A woman from the corner table. He was calm the whole time. A man near the window. They were the ones raising their voices. Another voice. This didn't need police. The room had shifted. Fully now. No longer watching. Participating. The woman looked around. Searching. For support. For agreement. For control. There was none. Not anymore. You're all overreacting, she said. But even she didn't believe it. Not fully. Ethan stood still. Letting it happen. Letting truth move. Without pushing it. Without forcing it. Because now, it didn't need him. The officer cleared his throat again. More noticeable this time. All right. A pause. Then, I'm going to need everyone to step back and give space. But no one moved immediately. Not like before. Not automatically. That difference was everything. The bystander lifted their phone slightly. I'm keeping this recording. The officer nodded. Slowly. You're allowed to. That shift. Small. But critical. Respect. Acknowledgement. Late. But there. The manager ran a hand over his face. This is bad. Ethan looked at him. Quiet. Yes. A beat. It is. The husband stepped closer to the officer. Lower voice now. Urgent. You need to fix this. The officer didn't respond. Didn't jump. Didn't act. Not like before. What do you want us to do? The husband pressed. Still no answer. Because now, the officer wasn't leading. He was reacting. Ethan took one step forward. Not aggressive. Not dominant. Just present. Clear. This doesn't get fixed quietly. The room went still again. Focused. Listening. It gets corrected properly. A pause. Then, On record. The officer looked at him. Carefully. What are you asking for? Ethan held his gaze. Accountability. The word landed. Simple. Heavy. Final. The bystander stepped in beside him. And transparency. Another voice added. And truth. The room echoed it. Not loudly. But enough. Enough to shift everything fully. The officer took a breath. Deep. Measured. Then, for the first time, he reached up, touched his shoulder radio. Didn't speak into it yet. Just held it. Thinking. Calculating. Deciding. Ethan watched closely. Every movement mattered now. Because this was the turning point. Not the reveal. Not the conflict. But the consequence. The officer lowered his hand slowly. Then looked at Ethan. Then at the bystander. Then at the room. And finally, back at his partner. His voice, when it came, was different. Lower. More formal. More careful. I'm going to need to log this properly. A pause. Then, he looked at Ethan again. Direct. Measured. Official. And I'll need your full statement. The room shifted again. But this time, it wasn't tension. It was something else. Something closer to resolution. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because as the officer reached for his notepad, the bystander spoke again. Clear. Steady. And we're going to need your badge number too. Silence. Sharp. Immediate. The officer froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. Enough for everyone to see it. Enough to understand. This wasn't just about one moment anymore. This was about the system. The room didn't breathe. Not right away. The bystander's words, badge number, cut deeper than anything before. Clean. Direct. Unavoidable. The officer's hand paused midair. Notepad still closed. Pen untouched. For a second, he didn't move. Then slowly, he exhaled. Looked at the bystander. Then at Ethan. Then at the room. Everyone was watching. Not casually. Not quietly. Intentionally. Waiting. The officer reached up. Touched the front of his uniform. Right above his chest pocket. His badge caught the light. Small. Metal. But heavy now. My name is Officer Daniels, he said. Voice steady. More controlled than before. He tapped the number beneath it. Badge 4172. The bystander nodded. Phone still raised. Thank you. No sarcasm. No edge. Just record. The second officer shifted beside him. Less rigid now. Less certain. He glanced at Daniels. Then at Ethan. Then quietly. I'm Officer Ruiz. Badge 5128. No one asked him. But he said it anyway. That mattered. The manager stepped forward. Slow. Careful. I think we all need to take a breath. No one answered. Because no one needed that. Not anymore. Breathing wasn't the issue. Truth was. Daniels opened his notepad. Finally. Pen clicked. Small sound. But it carried. I'm going to document everything from this point forward. A pause. Then. Starting now. Ethan nodded once. Good. The woman shifted her weight. Arms tighter now. This is unnecessary. But her voice didn't carry like before. Didn't command attention. Didn't control the room. It just existed. Daniels looked at her. Neutral. What's your name, ma'am? She hesitated. Just for a second. Then. Linda. Last name. Another pause. Longer this time. Carver. Daniels wrote it down. Carefully. Every letter. Every stroke. Permanent. And you, sir? Daniels asked, turning to the husband. Mark, he said quickly. Too quickly. Mark Carver. That went down too. Ink doesn't argue. Ink doesn't forget. Daniels turned to Ethan. Full name. Ethan Cole. Position. Senior Field Reviewer. Daniels paused slightly. Then continued writing. No reaction. But the weight was there. The bystander stepped forward again. Add me too. Daniels looked up. You're a witness? Yes. Name. Jordan Hayes. Daniels wrote that down. Then. What did you observe? Jordan didn't hesitate. Consistent harassment directed at him. Clear. Direct. No soft edges. Daniels wrote. Line by line. The manager stepped in. Voice quieter now. I should give a statement too. Daniels nodded. You should. The manager swallowed. Hard. I saw the situation develop, but I didn't step in early enough. That landed. Heavy. Honest. Ethan didn't look at him. But he heard it. Felt it. Linda scoffed again. But it sounded weaker. This is turning into a trial. Daniels didn't look up. No, ma'am. A beat. This is documentation. The room had changed. Completely. People weren't just watching anymore. They were present. Aware. Some still recording. Some just standing still. But no one ignoring it. Not now. Ethan stepped slightly to the side, creating space, letting the process happen. But his mind was moving. Fast. Not emotional. Focused. He knew what came next. Daniels finished a line. Looked up. Mr. Cole. Ethan met his eyes. Yes. Do you intend to file a formal complaint? The question sat there. Heavy. Because it mattered. Not just for him. For everyone. For what came after. Ethan didn't answer immediately. He looked around the room. At the staff. At Daniel near the kitchen. At Jordan. Still holding the phone. At the manager. Standing straighter now. Trying to be better. Then. At Linda and Mark. No longer in control. No longer certain. Yes, Ethan said. Calm. Clear. I do. Linda shook her head. This is unbelievable. But no one responded. Because it wasn't unbelievable. It was inevitable. Daniels nodded slowly. Then this report will move forward. A pause. Then. I'll also be noting procedural errors on our side. That shifted it again. Not dramatically. But meaningfully. Accountability. Not just for one. For all. Ruiz stepped forward slightly. We'll need copies of any recordings. Ethan nodded. You'll get them. Jordan added. So will I. Daniels didn't argue that. Didn't push back. Understood. The manager looked at Ethan. Voice low. I'm sorry. Ethan didn't respond right away. Then. I know. A beat. But that's not enough. The manager nodded. Because he knew it too. Linda stepped back. Grabbing her purse. We're leaving. Mark followed quickly. This is ridiculous. No one stopped them. No one argued. But no one supported them either. That silence said everything. As they walked toward the door, no one looked at them. Not anymore. They had lost the room. Completely. Daniels closed his notepad. Firm. Final. This will be forwarded by end of day. He looked at Ethan. Direct. Measured. And I'll be including everything. Ethan nodded once. That's all I'm asking. The room slowly started to move again. Not like before. Not normal. Different. Lighter. But aware. Ethan stood still for a moment. Just one. Feeling it. Not victory. Not relief. Something quieter. Heavier. Because this wasn't just about being right. It was about what it took to prove it. Daniels turned to leave. Ruiz beside him. But before he reached the door, he stopped. Turned back. Looked at Ethan. And said, You handled that better than most would. A pause. Then. That matters. Ethan didn't smile. Didn't nod. He just stood there. Calm. Still. Because he knew. This wasn't over yet. The restaurant didn't feel the same anymore. Not even close. It was still the same lights. Same tables. Same faint smell of food in the air. But something invisible had cracked. And it didn't repair itself. Ethan stood near the entrance now. Alone for a moment. The noise behind him was softer. Controlled. Staff whispering. Cleaning up. Resetting tables that nobody felt like sitting at anymore. No laughter. No ease. Only awareness. Jordan walked up beside him. Still holding the phone. I saved everything, they said quietly. Ethan nodded. Good. A pause. Jordan looked at him. You okay? That question felt too simple. Too small for what just happened. Ethan didn't answer right away. Because the truth wasn't simple. I don't know yet, he finally said. Honest. Flat. Human. Jordan nodded like that was enough. Because it was. Behind them, the manager approached slowly. Different energy now. Not defensive. Not authoritative. Just reduced. I already called regional, he said. Ethan turned slightly. Listening. They're opening an internal review. A pause. And compliance is coming tomorrow. That word. Compliance. Sat heavy. Not punishment. But inspection. Exposure. Ethan nodded once. That's the right step. The manager looked at him. Tired. I should have stepped in sooner. Ethan didn't argue. Didn't soften it. Just said. Yes. A beat. But you didn't. That honesty hit harder than anger. The manager exhaled. I know. Silence. Long enough to matter. Then, I'm sorry. Ethan finally looked at him fully. Not with anger. Not with forgiveness. Just clarity. I believe you. A pause. But belief doesn't fix it. The manager nodded again. Because there was nothing else to say. Not anymore. Jordan shifted slightly. So what happens now? Ethan looked toward the restaurant floor. People still moving. Still working. But differently. Carefully. Like every action might be reviewed later. Now, Ethan said quietly, it stops being about what happened in here. A pause. It becomes about what happens after. Jordan frowned. Which is? Ethan exhaled. Reports. Investigations. HR legal. A beat. And consequences that don't depend on emotion. A long silence followed. Not uncomfortable. Just real. Inside the dining area, a waiter dropped a tray cloth too quickly. It startled someone. Even small sounds felt sharper now. Everyone was aware of being seen. That awareness changes behavior. Not always permanently, but enough to matter. Ethan walked a few steps toward the window. Looked outside. Street was normal. Cars moving. People walking. Life continuing like nothing had happened inside. That contrast felt strange. Almost unfair. Because inside, something had shifted permanently. Jordan joined him. You think this changes anything long-term? Ethan didn't answer immediately. Because he had learned something today. Change wasn't loud. It wasn't instant. It wasn't even guaranteed. It was slow. And expensive. Maybe, he said finally. A pause. If it's handled right. Jordan nodded slowly. That's a big if. Ethan almost smiled at that. Almost. But didn't. Behind them, the manager approached again. This time holding something. A printed form. We're suspending service reviews for tonight, he said. We're closing early. Ethan turned slightly. That's not necessary. The manager shook his head. It is. A pause. I can't run service like this tonight. Ethan understood. Not emotionally. Structurally. Jordan looked around. So everyone just goes home? The manager nodded. For now. A silence fell again. Different this time. Not tense. Just finished. Ethan stepped back inside briefly. The staff noticed him immediately. Stopped talking. Not out of fear. Out of uncertainty. He spoke gently. I want to say something before I leave. No one interrupted. No one joked. No one dismissed. They listened. This wasn't about one interaction, Ethan said. His voice calm. Measured. It was about how quickly assumptions were made. A pause. And how easily they were accepted. He looked around the room. Each person. Not accusing. Not blaming. Just observing. And how hard it is to undo them once they start moving. Silence. Complete. He continued. I didn't come here to prove a point. A beat. But I understand why it felt like one. Jordan watched him carefully. The manager stood still. Staff didn't move. Ethan took a breath. I hope this place gets better. A pause. But hope isn't enough. That landed. Quietly. Then he stepped back. Away from the center. Towards the door. Jordan followed. You're leaving already? Ethan nodded. I've done what I came to do. A pause. But I didn't do what I need to do next. Jordan frowned. What's that? Ethan looked at them. Calm. Focused. Deal with what this did to me. That was the first time Jordan didn't respond immediately. Because that truth was heavier than the room. Outside, evening air hit differently. Cooler. Less controlled. More real. Jordan stopped beside him. You're not alone in this, you know. Ethan nodded slowly. I know. A beat. But it still follows you home. They stood there for a moment. Side by side. Quiet. Not as witness and subject anymore. Just two people trying to process something too large for language. Inside, the lights dimmed slightly. Closing sequence beginning. Not symbolic. Just practical. But it still felt like an ending. Ethan looked back one last time. The restaurant looked normal again. But he knew better now. Normal wasn't the same as fair. And silence wasn't the same as peace. Jordan spoke softly. So what now? Ethan turned forward again. Into the street. Into the night. Into whatever came next. Now, he said quietly. I make sure it doesn't happen quietly again. And they walked. Away from the restaurant. Not as the end of a story. But as the beginning of everything that would follow it.